Good morning, and thank you for tuning in to the Global Current. I'm Jacob Abel.
And I'm Maddie Ruth.
Today in news, a new HIV treatment appears to be effective in stopping the disease.
The Iraqi military gains more territory in the embattled city of Mosul.
And an update on the death of Kim Jong-un's half-brother, Kim Jong-nam.
An analysis, how political scandals have shaped the French presidential election.
And the implications of China's naval buildup in the South China Sea.
Then, an interview with Mr. Dietmar Rieg, the president and CEO of the German-American Chamber of Commerce.
And now, Ian Fauché brings us a report on a groundbreaking HIV treatment.
A promising new lead into treatment for HIV/AIDS has been recently discovered, raising hope that further research could yield promising results that would negate the need for daily drugs. The new treatment, based on vaccines, is derived from the combination of two HIV vaccines with a drug traditionally used to treat cancer. The discovery was made at the Irsi Caixa AIDS Research Institute in Barcelona, Spain. After being subjected to the treatment, the AIDS virus was entirely undetectable in 5 of 24 participants in the clinical study. The spread of the virus to the immune system of the subjects, furthermore, was entirely halted. Of the 5 successful cases, 1 has been entirely drug-free for 7 months. Lead scientist at Irsi Caixa, Beatrice Moffa, claimed that her team was, quote, on the right path and closer to developing a treatment that could lend itself as an alternative to once-a-day antiretroviral medications, or ARTs. Approximately 18 million people, 50% of all individuals afflicted with HIV/AIDS, take ART drugs to slow the progression of the infection. The medication, however, is incredibly expensive and is capable of causing extremely unpleasant side effects. Executive Director of the AIDS Vaccine Advocacy Coalition, or AVAC, Mitchell Warren, commented on the study, saying that although the research has been carried out on an extremely small scale, its findings were very interesting and important. For the Global Current, this is Ian Fauché.
Up next, Santiago Losada reports on the recapture of Mosul by the Iraqi forces.
Iraqi forces have recently recaptured several villages in the south of Mosul as they move towards an assault on the last area held by the Islamic State. With a new progress that has been made, Iraqi forces are now within striking range of the Mosul airport. According to the BBC, Iraqi Prime Minister Haider al-Abadi formally announced the offensive on February 19, 2017. Last month, the forces retook the eastern part of the city, but the western part of the city will be a bigger challenge because of its many widening streets. As of now, there is no advance from East Mosul because all the bridges have been destroyed. There is concern for the safety of the civilians that are still trapped in the western part of the city. With the hundreds of thousands of people there is a harder possibility for close urban warfare. Over the weekend, leaflets were dropped from planes that warned residents of the future assault that was coming and pleaded with the militants to surrender. NPR states that despite the continuous unrest, glimpses of ordinary life are beginning to return to eastern Mosul. People have become more optimistic, which in turn has helped residents deal with ISIS's constant sniper attacks, suicide bombings, and armed drones. Humanitarian agencies have been less hopeful about the current situation and are preparing to assist 250,000 to 400,000 civilians who may flee their homes as a result of the assault. So far, the coalition against ISIS has conducted more than 10,000 airstrikes against ISIS targets in Iraq. It has also been responsible for training and equipping more than 70,000 Iraqi forces. With the advances of the coalition, the Islamic State has escalated its attacks in Mosul in retaliation against the setbacks that have forced it out of most Iraqi cities. Reuters also says that the militants have developed their own network of passageways and tunnels to help them hide and fight among the civilians, vanish after hit-and-run operations, as well as track government movements. Western Mosul has cultural significance for the city as a whole because it contains the old city center, ancient souks, and the Grand Mosque, and the most government administrative buildings. Back in 2014, it was from the Grand Mosque in Mosul where the Islamic State leader Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi announced the new caliphate over parts of Syria and Iraq. The New York Times reports that given all of the constraints, the fight will be a very difficult one on both sides. Lieutenant General Stephen Townsend, the commander of the American-led effort against the Islamic State, believes that Mosul would be a tough fight for any army in the world, and the Iraqis have risen to the challenge. Helping along with the coalition on the ground are some 450 American advisors that are working with Iraqi officers to carry out the attack. If the attack is successful, it will be a huge victory for Iraqi troops as well as a detrimental blow to the Islamic State. For the Global Current, this is Santiago Losada.
Next this morning, Priya Bhave brings us a report on the death of Kim Jong-nam, Kim Jong-un's half-brother.
On February 13th, CNN and news outlets across the globe reported that Kim Jong-nam, the older half-brother of North Korean Supreme Leader Kim Jong-un, was allegedly murdered by two women who grabbed him from behind and sprayed a sort of liquid on his face. CNN later reported that this liquid was confirmed to be the nerve agent VX by Malaysia's Health Minister Dr. Subramanian Satavisam. Jong-nam's mysterious death occurred about 15 to 20 minutes after he was accosted and rubbed with the substance, Satavisam told CNN. Satavisam then added that Jong-nam fainted in a clinic and died in the ambulance during evacuation. So far, the two female assassins have not been positively identified. According to the New York Times, Malaysian authorities have arrested two women as possible suspects, Doan Thi Huang, 28, and Siti Asai, 25. Malaysian authorities tell the Times that these women were recruited, trained, and equipped by four North Koreans, all of whom fled their home country around the same time the assassination took place, and all from connecting flights leaving the Kuala Lumpur International Airport. Guided by these four North Korean agents, footage shows that the women practiced at malls in Kuala Lumpur before finally attacking Jong-nam at the Kuala Lumpur International Airport. Mr. Kim had long been a target of his half-brother Kim Jong-un's hit list, according to South Korean intelligence reports from the New York Times. Kim Jong-nam was sidelined as a teenager in the Kim dynasty's third-generation power struggle. South Korean intelligence confirms to the Times that Jong-nam's mother was abandoned by his father, and so Jong-nam had been effectively shut out of power and shut off from his father since the 1970s. North Korean officials also tell the Times that he never met his half-brother Kim Jong-un. The Globe and Mail, a Canadian news outlet, reports that Kim Jong-nam was intrigued and affected by his experiences outside of North Korea. He was critical and outspoken of the Kim dynasty, his father, and his younger half-brother. Kim Jong-nam was officially exiled when he was caught entering Japan on a false Dominican Republic passport in 2001, thus embarrassing the family. He told Japanese officials that he wanted to visit Tokyo Disneyland. After his father exiled him, Jong-nam fled to China, where South Korean intelligence tells the Times that his uncle, Jang Sok-taek, became a father figure and his main connection to his country. Jang Sok-taek was eventually tried and killed for treason, the New York Times confirms. The New York Times now theorizes that Jong-un may have finally given the okay for the assassination of his brother if he believed that Beijing saw his half-brother as a possible replacement for him. So far, North Korea has denied any involvement in the killing, which the Times believe is likely to anger China, North Korea's main ally and a protector of the exiled Kim Jong-nam. Reports confirm that North Korea has refused to even acknowledge that the dead man was Kim Jong-nam, despite DNA analysis proving that the man killed was indeed related to Kim Jong-un. Times reports that North Korea has now started to accuse Malaysia of carrying out a politically motivated investigation to placate their other allies, South Korea, and namely the United States. Despite the denial of involvement, they still demand that the body be sent to Pyongyang. Furthermore, a statement given to CNN, NBC, and the Times on Wednesday from the North Korean embassy said that the two women suspects were innocent and should be freed. For the Global Current, this is Priya Bhave.
Up next, Eric Christatelli analyzes the potential effects of China's naval expansion in the South China Sea.
China's recent military buildup in the South China Sea raises the stakes in a contested waterway under the watch of President Trump. Satellite images revealed that China has recently built surface-to-air missile facilities. These artificial islands, known as the Great Wall of Sand, have been created by the Chinese beginning in 2014, which have grown to more than 3,000 acres, which includes airstrips and hardened structures for military aircraft, anti-aircraft batteries, and radar units, and also hardened sites for aircraft. The buildup on the artificial islands is part of China's strategy of imposing its claims of self-sovereignty over the South China Sea by force if necessary. Dotted with small islands, reefs, and shoals, the South China Sea is a crucial shipping route and home to a messy territorial dispute that pits many of the countries touching the South China Sea against one another. Vietnam, Malaysia, the Philippines, and Taiwan have also reclaimed land in the South China Sea, but their land grab is dwarfed by China's. Tensions in the disputed waters have ratcheted up since 2014 as China has turned sandbars into islands, equipping them with airfields, ports, and weapon systems, and warned U.S. warships and aircraft to stay away from them. The Association of Southeast Asian Nations ministers stressed their demilitarization was a key component of relations between the regional group and China. The ASEAN ministers have been unanimous in their expression of concern about what they see as the militarization of the region. Recently, the PLA Navy is likely to secure significant new funding in China's upcoming defense budget as Beijing seeks to check U.S. dominance of the high seas and improve their power projection around the globe. According to Reuters, its opportunity in crisis set a Beijing-based Asian diplomat of China's recent naval moves. China fears Trump will turn on them eventually as he's so unpredictable and is getting ready. From CNN, at a press conference, Chinese Foreign Ministry spokesman Jiang Shuang denied any wrongdoing, saying his country strove to preserve peace and stability in the region. He added that China was operating within its territorial rights. What can the Trump administration do about it? How can the United States respond to the military buildup given its strong policy on Chinese involvement in the South China Sea? Now, President Trump promising a U.S. shipbuilding spree and his unpredictable approach on hot-button issues including Taiwan and the South and East China Seas. U.S. Secretary of State Rex Tillerson said China should be blocked from accessing the artificial islands it has built, setting the stage for a potential showdown. The U.S. is responding with its own show of force that includes ships, fighter jets, and submarines, as well as the test launch of nuclear-capable missiles. The U.S. can state publicly that we will not recognize a Chinese ADIZ in the South China Sea either, and that we and other countries will feel free to conduct overflights in the Spratleys and South China Sea as we normally do. We should summon an international conflict of states bordering on the South China Sea, including the 5 other claimants to the territory there: the Philippines, Vietnam, Taiwan, Malaysia, and Brunei, as well as Australia and Japan, to discuss a situation that has reached crisis proportions and that now demands a concerted multilateral response. Taiwan has a stake in the contest over the future of the South China Sea and could be a key strategic ally in limiting China's ability to generate mischief in those waterways through which 1/3 of the world's annual maritime traffic flows. This is Eric Crisatelli reporting for The Global Current.
And now, Liam Scollins examines the influence that political scandals are playing in the French presidential election.
Leading candidates for France's presidential election have been slammed by political scandals. The nominees of both of France's major right-wing parties, François Fillon of the centre-right Les Républicains and Marine Le Pen of the far-right Le Front National, have been accused of arranging fake jobs with salaries for friends and family. According to The Telegraph, Fillon's and Le Pen's residences and offices have been raided by French police over these allegations. Fillon, a former prime minister, is accused of using state funds to pay a salary to his wife Penelope for a secretarial position which she admitted to never working. While Fillon has made fiscal conservatism a cornerstone of his campaign and advocated for laying off more than 500,000 government workers to reduce the budget, the allegations of paying nearly €1 million of French taxpayers' money for fake work has severely wounded him in the polls. According to The Telegraph, Fillon, who used to be favored to win the election, has fallen into third place behind independent candidate Emmanuel Macron and extreme right candidate Marine Le Pen. Contradicting his previous statements, Fillon is remaining in the race despite promising to withdraw should he be placed under formal investigation. In a speech recorded by The Independent, Fillon declared that he refused to step down despite the allegations. My wife's salary was completely justified because her work was indispensable to my daily activities. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, everything that we did was legal. Le Pen, who often garners controversy with her extreme comments, is also under investigation by the European Union's Fraud Office for allegedly arranging jobs for several of her party aides, according to Bloomberg. The European Union's Fraud Office has requested that Le Pen return over €336,000 for these alleged misgivings. Despite the formal investigation into Le Pen's activities, she's not yet appeared before investigators. Even before she was accused of creating fake jobs for her aides, Le Pen expressed in a radio interview that she did not want investigators to look into claims against Fillon.
It doesn't mean you're guilty, but it allows people to throw dirt on other people in the media. I won't get involved in the politics of smear campaigns.
With both main right-wing candidates currently in scandal, and France's main left-wing party, Le Parti Socialiste, polling at an all-time low, an independent candidate has the opportunity to win the election. Emmanuel Macron, an independent centrist, is set to overtake Le Pen in the polls and win comfortably in the second round of the presidential election in May. According to a report by Bloomberg, Macron outlined his official platform, which will focus on liberal economic modernization and a deeper involvement of France in the European Union. Macron's detailed plan has silenced many critics who have attacked him for being too vague in his campaign speeches. Macron, who created his own political movement called En Marche, was previously not considered a viable candidate by anyone in the political establishment. However, Macron's centrist views have proven to be a more palatable alternative to the conservative platform of Les Républicains, the extreme right-wing policies of Le Front National, and the leftist platform of the faltering Parti Socialiste. Compounded by the political scandals that have derailed the campaigns of Fillon and Le Pen, Macron's middle-of-the-road policies and energetic campaign has gained momentum to edge both former frontrunners out of first place in some polls. While French politics and scandal often go hand in hand, this year's election has been dominated and defined by the fall of political elites on both sides of the spectrum, often precipitated by scandal. Macron's rise to the top of the polls and his expected win in the second round of the election would almost certainly have been impossible without the scandals that have impugned his main rivals. Despite Macron's apparent path to victory, the election is not for another 2 months, and given the climate of this year's election, anything is possible. This is Liam Scollins reporting for the Global Current.
Finally this morning, the Global Current's Daniel Kim brings us an interview with Dietmar Rieg, the president and CEO of the German-American Chamber of Commerce.
Hello, this is Daniel Kim reporting for Global Currents, and today we are here with Mr. Brigg, and we're going to be talking about some of the issues that have been going on in Europe and some of the potential impact that the new innovations such as the Industry 4.0 and Internet of Things may bring. Hello again. Thank you for taking your time out of your busy schedule.
Thank you for having me. Appreciate the offer.
All right. So to start off, right now, what are some of the skill sets that businesses in Germany and the rest of EU currently investing in right now?
Well, the investment climate is such that, it's on a broad basis where the investment, but there's clearly a focus in investment in what you called Industry 4.0, or what we also call Internet of Things, what is data-driven, what is technology advance-driven. That's where the large investments take place. Probably a little bit of differences that manufacturing sector in Germany in particular is still comparatively larger than, for example, in the United States. So it is more in those sectors, and as you know, Germany, for example, has a very, very strong base in auto manufacturing, in machine manufacturing, and those kind of things. I think this is still that every seventh employment, directly or indirectly, is employed by the auto industry. So naturally, that's where the investments are also taking place. And if you talk auto or automobiles or cars, of course, there are a few developments these days. For example, autonomous driving, electromobility, and those kinds of developments which are triggering large investments into the future.
So you would say that people are more investing towards engineering, and then other STEM majors. Would that be a fair assessment?
Instead of what?
So you would say that they're more investing towards those who are currently doing engineering and other STEM related field to make a fair assessment?
Yeah. There's clearly what you would call STEM. Yes, there's investment in STEM, but there's also investment in services now. If you look at the largest two, or one of the largest 2 or 3 investments that we've been done, for example, are in delivery services for food, for prepared food, for example, Lieferando, Delivery Hero, and so forth. Those also have been at the forefront of investment. So it's a mixed picture, but there is also STEM, yes, that I would say.
All right. So for the next question, as different areas such as business, academia, and the governments, they realize the huge impact that these new innovations might have on this rest of the world. Are the governments doing anything right now are they making any plans to ensure people's financial well-being, just average regular people, by any chance?
With regard to
in regards to the, like I said, the Industry 4.0 and then the Internet of Things.
I think I know what you're leaning to. That we are living in this age of basically traumatic structural changes in a lot of industries. And I think the one example would be autonomous driving. What happens to all people who drive for business, either passenger or freight? And there are lots in the United States as well as in Europe. Now, what is the role of government? That's basically where you're leaning towards with your question. And yes, the systems are a little bit different across the world. There are larger safety nets, for example, in typically in Europe or in Germany, for that matter, when it comes to these structural changes. But by and large, what the role of government and others should be is to enable people to really accompany that kind of structural change in terms of education, in terms of making them available for other jobs if their own one may not be that much in fashion, for lack of a better word, than others. And there are programs, of course. We have programs in Germany. They always existed. This is nothing new, by the way. What is new, of course, is the velocity and the speed of the changes and the abruptness, probably, of the changes. So it requires a lot of people to, what everybody's saying, a lifelong learning and try to be on the cusp of developments and benefit on that way. I think that's the major role of governments and associations, of course, playing their part in that one as well.
All right, and then recently you discussed about the Brexit, and then what kind of impact that it will have on the rest of the European Union, and then you sounded pretty optimistic. It's like what made you positive about it?
I'm not so sure if I'm positive about it. It's a pity, actually, but we have to acknowledge, of course, that there were the elections and a referendum in Britain, and the majority said they want to not be part of the European Union as it is right now. It's still a pity, and this is how we view it. I think at the end of the day, if we have some level-headed and calm and down to the point negotiation how this exit can be manufactured or can be done, that hopefully the fallout will not be negative or will not be very bad, and Britain and England and then people of Britain, they will live in Europe, and Europeans will live in Europe, and they will visit each other and hopefully have good understanding, and they will do transactions with each other. That there might not be some liberties in terms of trade or in terms of people moving and be able to work in each other's countries. Let's hope that we find some good solutions how we can limit the potential negative impact, and that there's not too much emotions involved in how to deal with it. And on the other hand, for the European Union, probably it's a good time to ask yourself what can be improved in the institutions and the framework of the European Union, what might leave people behind and not fully embracing the European idea or the European Union idea. It's probably a good time to have that discussion too, and hopefully it will be a fruitful one.
Okay, so the next question is basically on the sustainable goals that the United Nations made recently for back in. So the United Nations made a list of sustainable goals to their country members by end of 2030 to reach all these goals. And then now going back to the technological innovations such as the Industry 4.0 and the Internet of Things and artificial intelligence, to what extent would the technology help in developing countries such as in Eastern Europe, in Africa, in Southeast Asia?
Yeah, it's for some countries countries which we, for whatever reason we call developing or countries, it may be a leap, but it offers, I'm absolutely convinced it offers great opportunities to basically leapfrog one or the other development. And you see that in some countries already. I also read this report. I don't have first-hand knowledge about it, but when you look, for example, at payment systems in Kenya, which now is all on mobile devices and works apparently very, 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 very well. Before having a brick and mortar structured banking system built up, I think this is all positive, and hopefully a lot of countries and a lot of human beings and people can take great advantage of it. Sustainable, we of course want to have sustainable economic development, and we want to have it gradual too. The gradual is always a problem. There always have been things that seems to be the nature of the thing. But big data analysis and a lot of innovation we see, for example, in terms of climate change, in terms of using less or producing less CO2, for example. All these new technologies can have significant and absolute positive impact on those developments. And the question for us will be how to make them available and take it further. There are, particularly in Africa, I know of quite a few examples where you now have solar panels, for example, without developing a grid, for example, electricity grid. With solar panels, you basically make kerosene lamps and those devices obsolete. Help young children go to school and have the ability at night to have a good source of light, for example, for learning. I mean, that sounds all very nitty-gritty, but it can make a huge difference to a lot of folks. How they develop, for example, or deliver, for example, medicines now in some parts of the world with basically drones or data-driven gliders and drop medicine in areas which before have been very, very difficult to reach due to lack of a good infrastructure or road infrastructure, for example. I think these are all little stories and examples of great hope and of great enthusiasm.
All right. So for the last question is basically going to be about the potential future that society might see. Yeah. So for the final question, what kind of how would the social paradigm change in order to accommodate on what's coming right now, on everything that's been happening from before the new innovation to countries trying to develop their economy, their infrastructures, their whole livelihoods of people. Now, would it be necessary to change the social paradigm of today's to make it better?
What do you mean by social paradigm? How we live together, or what do you mean with that?
As in today's status quo, and then how today there's still many different issues, ranging from economic disparity to even simple thing, having access to clean water. So like, would there be a need to change, I guess, to change the social circumstance? It's like how would the social circumstance, what would be necessary?
Well, I mean, in United States, we all talk about, the pursuit of happiness, and hopefully this is true for everybody in the world, right? And of course, there are unfortunately areas where the access to clean water is a problem, and that's a huge problem. This is definitely clear, and we should do whatever we can to make those fundamental problems really go away. Now, what I really believe is that we will not live so much different. I mean, we probably change our ways of communication that has changed over the last, hundreds of years already, and it has dramatically changed in the last maybe 10 years with the advent of social media and all kinds of things. But at the end of the day, really, I think as a society, we want to get together, we want to exchange ideas, we want to rub against each other and have discussions as we are doing right now, even also over the telephone. But that, I don't think, will change tremendously. When it comes to institutions, I don't know. I mean, I'm not a politician, but every now and then there probably will be some changes, some questioning of, do we need the EU, or the Europeans right now talking about a European monetary fund. It's not against the International Monetary Fund, but it's an idea which is popping up, and those institutions which have a huge impact on a global scale, that will happen every now and then, and hopefully we find solutions which are better than things we have, and that they develop accordingly.
So that's all the time that we have for today. Thank you again for taking your time out of your busy schedule.
Okay.
Thank you for tuning in to this week's episode of The Global Current. Follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. I'm Jacob Abel.
And I'm Maddie Ruth.
Same time,
Same place. Next
week.
The Global Current is brought to you by the School of Diplomacy and International Relations at Seton Hall University. Our executive producers Liam Scollins, our associate producers Morgan Mount, our news editors John Trudeau, our analysis editors Mirza Hutton, our technical producer Trevor West, and our interview segment was produced by Daniel Kim. The Global Current theme song is Acid Jazz by Kevin MacLeod. You've been listening to The Global Current on WSOU 89.5 FM, Seton Hall's Pirate Radio.